Hello, we are here on Loomuse Academy. I'm Faristamo Eller, and with me today is Tomaž Grušovnik. It is 17th of June when we are recording. Why I'm telling that date is that right now it's animal rights conference going on, and Tomaž is here in Estonia, so we are also recording here in Loomuse place, so to say. And I'm very happy, Tomaž, that you came here and that you agreed to talk in Loomuse Academy. Hello.
Hi, Faristamo. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me for the podcast.
My first question is, what is your topic in conference? Of course, everybody who did not yet listen the conference, please do. And then you hear also Tomaž's presentation. We will not do that here. It's just that we go on from there. What is your presentation topic, and how did you somehow end up there?
Okay, so first of all, I'm a philosopher. I'm interested in animal ethics. But what interests me the most is basically how not that we have a lack of information. You know, traditionally in theory of knowledge or in epistemology, the idea is that you don't do something because you don't have the right information. I kind of try to change this perspective, and I'm saying that we are actively avoiding this information, especially in the animal abuse spectrum, because we just want to continue with our practices, and everything that disturbs this is kind of unpleasant, and we are avoiding it. So starting from this, together with my colleague from Slovenia, Maša Blaznik, who is a psychologist, we've been working in the past several years on the problem basically of slaughterhouse workers and how they actually suffer also. So we have to know that not only, of course, the animals are the biggest victims of meat producing industry, and also across the animal industrial spectrum, but also people that are often forced into those occupations, because, you know, it's very, very hard to find a person that would voluntarily choose to be a slaughterhouse worker. Also, they are suffering because they are pushed into this horrible working conditions where they have to take life. And of course, this is a huge stress for a human being to be forced into taking life. And everybody knows problems with war veterans, what a psychological toll that is for them. So starting from this, we are further developing this this topic, and we kind of predicted that the next step in the production of meat is basically robotization and artificial intelligence in slaughterhouses. So we are interested into how these new technologies actually aim at removing the human completely out of the production process. And of course, far from this being humane, or far from it being morally desirable, we are actually claiming that precisely this fact that humans have to be removed from this process testifies to its moral problematic. So this is what we were presenting at this conference that turned out so far to be a really interesting event. So I recommend to all the listeners or viewers to view the recordings that will be available.
Thank you. A little bit now about you. How did you end up to that topic at all, and to animal rights and all this? It's not so common.
Yeah, Farishtam, that's a great question. So basically, since a very young age, I was interested in animals. You know, I grew up with dogs. I was born in a family with dogs, and so I was surrounded by animals, and it was my desire to kind of, you know, interact, be with them. But soon, when I went to school, I kind of got disillusioned, because biology was actually not what I was looking for. You know, I was not interested in killing animals, taking them apart, looking what they are composed of. I was never interested in that. I was always interested in interaction with animals. And unfortunately, schools don't provide that. what they provide us with is yet another exploitation of animals, where we classify them, where we cut them apart, and where we want to study them, you know. No, so I was always interested in this interaction with animals, and then I wanted to be ethologist and so on. I ended up being a philosopher. Of course, I'm proud of that. I think philosophy is a vital discipline for today's world. And with time, by being a philosopher, I discovered this whole area of animal ethics. So I started studying it. I became interested. But then, as already mentioned, I discovered that maybe, you know, because at first I was working with this idea of basically, I also started in environmental ethics, and I was working with this idea like many activists do, you know, why people don't know those things, you know, how to let people know what the destruction our world is facing and so on. But the more I started researching into this, the more it became clear that the problem is not that people do not know. The problem is that people do not want to know, because if they would know, they would immediately, you know, become morally problematic in their own eyes. Their own actions would become basically from murder, whatever you have it. And of course, this idea that I'm a bad person is very troublesome for individuals, and that's why we are rather avoiding, you know, information that could turn us into bad people. And yes, this was this realization that the problem is not that we don't have information, because everybody has seen videos from the slaughter. Name one individual from contemporary world who did not see videos from the slaughterhouse. You know, everybody knows that. So the problem is not that we don't know that animals are sentient beings or that animals are killed horribly in slaughterhouses. The problem is that we do not want to know that. We are avoiding knowledge, we are denying it in order to continue with our practices. So I'm interested in those dynamics, you know, how we are avoiding this information, not only in environmental ethics, not only in animal ethics, also when it comes to migrants, for instance, when it comes to poor people, you have the same mechanism that that operates.
Yes, this is a very interesting topic. I always think about that question, that how it is like that. How is it possible that all these 56 billion animals every year are killed for people, and the way they are raised? And how, basically how it is possible. But when you say that people do not want to know, and they are actually doing their best not to know, then this gives quite an answer. But did you go on with that question, like what to do when people do not want to know? What is the next step?
Exactly, that's a crucial problem. So first of all, one part of this research is that it shows us why people are so allergic at the activists, right? Why are activists not met with, oh, thank you for letting me know this. Yeah, this is a really horrible thing. What can I do to help with this? Of course, you will never see this reaction, or very rarely, maybe in 1% of instances. Mostly you'll see, why, you are crazy. What are you doing here? Leave me alone. I want to have peace. I want to finish my dinner, and so on. So the first observation is this: why does this happen? Now we do have an explanation why it happens, because people just want to continue with their lifestyles, basically. Recently, one philosopher argued for this status quo bias, that we are always inclined to kind of maintain the state we are in. So if you're a meat eater, basically you'll connect, you know, this with your tradition. This is a normal thing, and you will kind of push everything that's different from this away from you. So that's one thing. Now the other thing is that probably, you know, of course, it's very important that people know what is going on. It's very important to share the videos from the slaughterhouse. It's very important to inform people. For instance, in Slovenia, the very common response when people saw slaughterhouse footages was, well, this is happening in America, or, you know, I don't know, in Russia maybe, or in China, not here, you know. Slovenian animals live perfect lives. They live harmoniously, you know, they graze on the meadows, and then they're just killed and they become meat and everybody is happy, you know. But, you know, as soon as those videos, you know, activists recently got videos from Slovenian slaughterhouses, and it's turned out that it's not one, it's not two, it's 3 slaughterhouses, and probably, you know, there are many more in Slovenia that are as horrible as you can imagine. You know, animals suffer there tremendously. So what I'm saying is, it's very important that we do get this information, but that on its own is not enough. What's very important is that beyond this first trigger, you also have community of vegans that can adopt you, new lifestyles that people can assume, you know, so that they do get this idea that what they are doing is not giving up anything. You know, you are not giving up your diet, or you are not giving up something that belongs to you, but what basically you are doing is you are starting to live a more responsible, a kinder life. Actually, that is what you are doing. You are doing something positive. You are not, you know, losing something, because who wants to be such a monster that only because of his or her taste is prepared, you know, to cause all of this suffering, tremendous suffering, a lot of pain, death, and also psychological issues with other people that have to do this for them. So basically, I think it's very important that how you frame this message of vegans and animal rights. You know, of course, we are helping animals. We are not helping anyone. We are just stop doing the things that we should never be doing. But not only that, you know, there is also this other positive side. So I think that all this research into why we are avoiding information shows us that only those strategies of blaming other people or of pressuring them into something don't work, because people already know those things and their reaction is exactly the opposite. So the more you will push, the greater the reaction will be. So you also have to offer some other things, communities, produce, and so on, in order to accommodate for this change. And most importantly, as said, you shouldn't frame this as a loss. You should frame this as an opportunity to become a better person and live a more of a better life.
Mm-hmm. You said the information, for example, from Slovenia, that when people get the information from their home, then they maybe believe it more. I have had the same experiences here in Estonia, that no, our animals are really happy here. How is it happening there? This information, is it easy to get? Do activists get this information easily to present it?
No. It was a scandal when this video surfaced, of course. I think that companies wanted to sue the activists. The idea was, you know, they are people are very smart. So they came up with this idea that, no, those evil activists, they don't know what they are doing. They might bring germs into farms, you know, and as they bring germs into farms, they could basically spread diseases, so they'll cause a lot of suffering. Those are no activists that want to help, and so on. You know, it was all about hygiene. You know, it's always about hygiene, you know, but it's not, in reality, it can be shown that it's not hygiene. You know, it's about protecting the interest, because also slaughterhouses aren't removed from the public gaze only because of hygiene, but also as Paul McCarthy said, if slaughterhouses would have glass walls, everybody would be vegetarian or vegan. Of course,
Yeah, he said vegetarian.
Yeah, it's also, you know, they're removed also in order to minimize the questioning of the public, you know, so they're hidden. It's the same process as robotization, artificial intelligence, the introduction of artificial intelligence in slaughtering process and so on. So yes, there was a big pushback. Everybody wanted to protect the farmers. I mean, the industry wanted to protect its own interests, but you know, it sparked a national TV debate. And at the end, actually, some of the slaughterhouses had to admit that they made a mistake. Now inspections are more frequent because there was this big public uprising, and of course because the people started questioning what the hell is this inspection doing. You know, if they fail to discover those things that, you know, random people can discover without being paid, and they are paid tens of thousands of euros, and they are unable to discover this, what on earth are they doing? So they started to pay closer attention, and I think that the supervision, at least for now, is a bit more strict. There, I think this was there was some I mean, those actions were successful. Now, maybe the question is, why is it harder to deny this information? Well, it's harder to deny because, you know, the more, if you are exposed to information, you know, regularly, then it becomes harder and harder and harder to avoid it and to deny it. You know, that's why you also have to have this exposure. On the one hand, of course, people will try to navigate around, but if you tell them, no, it's happening in Slovenia, then of course they would say, well, but it's only one isolated farm, right? Everything else is okay. No, it's not. It's also happening here. And you see, then they have to start moving, you know, the rationalization strategies don't work. But I mentioned Slovenia, yeah, because I was sure that this is also happening in Estonia. Why? Because, you know, this is universal human reaction. You know, it's not only specific to a certain country. This is how people react to news like this.
Yeah, my question is always, or at least lately, why is it so difficult to get this information, and how is our society okay with it? Because we want to know basically everything, right? But suddenly, whatever happens with our food, it's okay. It's okay to just go to the shop, and then, of course, people read more now what is inside the food. So all the labels, but what happens inside the farms, this is kind of not public interest, because somehow there is this protection of the industry. And I think it should not be like that. Was it Spain, or I heard of some country where they made, or at least they talked about making or putting these cameras inside the slaughterhouses. Basically, I think it should be everywhere where you grow animals. If you decide to grow them, of course, you can just maybe grow some vegetables. But if you decide to work with animals, then it should be seen. How is it in Slovenia? Is there any debate over this also?
Yeah, that's that again. I think there are two things going on here. The first thing is the following. Of course, the industry wants to protect their interests, and of course, basically, you could, from a legal point of view, you could argue that this is infringement of privacy. You know, because farm is your private property, and you know, I don't want people looking into my bedroom, and so maybe the farmers don't want other people looking into their farms, on the one hand. So this is some sort of a right that they have. However, you know, all liberal democratic legal systems are built on this principle that if you have one vital right, you know, which is a right for private property and privacy, this right can be undermined if another yet more important right is threatened. And in the case of animal abuse, a very important right is threatened. And Slovenian Constitutional Court in one legal argument ruled that the well-being of animals is more important than the freedom of choosing your religion. Basically, there was
Wow.
yes. So there was the Muslim community. One lawyer on behalf of Muslim community triggered the constitutional what is it called, an issue,
Yeah.
because there is a legal provision that all animals have to be stunned prior to being killed.
Yes.
But the Muslim community who practices halal slaughter wanted to repudiate that and wanted to continue with halal slaughter, and the constitutional court said, no, you cannot do this. Of course, the right, the freedom for religion is constitutional freedom. However, this freedom cannot overrule the right of animals not to be mistreated. So you see, this right in Slovenian legal system is a very important right, and I think that the right of privacy cannot be, does not have the advantage, the same way that the right to choose your religion does not have an advantage over causing pain and suffering and, of course, death of animals. So we have to know that this is a very important right, and yes, even from the legal viewpoint, there is a right of everybody to inspect what is going on, because the public has the right to know if animals are abused. Now, this is one part of the story. Now, the other part of the story is, of course, this: does the public actually want to know? Even if we would have those cameras, would people be watching? In a way, you see, no, because precisely they do know what is going on, and if they do watch these movies, then they will not be able to enjoy their steak for the dinner. So that's the other thing, we are avoiding these issues. So even if that would be the case, people start to navigate around it. And unfortunately, even though there was this pressure, even though that people now they are aware that animal abuse is happening in Slovenia as they speak, as they eat, we could say, still, when those videos surfaced, the meat industry actually saw record sales. So it's this disconnect. That's why I'm saying, yes, it's important to provide people with all this data, but on the other hand, you have to do also something else. Let's call it, this is a negative campaign. You also have to have a positive campaign, making people aware that they're not giving up anything, that they can have nice meals, even if it's without meat and so on.
Like opening really nice vegan restaurants, or making vegan options everywhere available, so that people can easily choose it, for example, would be a very easy way to do it.
Yes.
Also in schools, public places, or even in jail. Everybody should that. Yeah. Okay. So now the last question, maybe, is there something you would like to share, and maybe one suggestion for a listener for maybe summer?
Oh, Faristamo, that's a very nice, nice invitation. Yes, indeed, I would like to share something with everybody. I think it's very important that we people stick together. Even though maybe if we don't convince now 10 new people, it's not as important, I mean, of course it is important, but what's also very important is this bonding, between people from different countries, from different regions, to share this same idea that animal abuse and animal slaughter is absolutely not acceptable in today's environment, in today's culture. And it's very important that we have this bonding. So sometimes, it's hard. It's hard because we are pressured by many different groups, by many different interests. You know, capitalism also has a very big interest in vegan industries. So you also have to be careful about this, you know, that this doesn't become a new site of new problems or discriminations and so on. But, you know, at the end, what we are fighting for, or maybe speaking for, is a very deep truth. You know, and whenever you feel that people aren't listening to you, or that they are nervous, or that they are shouting at you, you have to remind yourself that this is because you are telling something that's very true. And even though they might react negatively, maybe you've planted a seed. Maybe people will start thinking, will start looking when they'll have time, when they'll be intimate with themselves, you know, when they won't be afraid, when they won't be ashamed, they might start thinking. And the more options they have for a positive change, the likelier it is that they will do it, and that they will transform.
Thank you. Thank you, Tomaž, for coming and for making the presentation. What was very, very interesting. I listened to it yesterday. I will not talk maybe too much about it, but who didn't hear it yet, it was about using robotization in slaughterhouses. And it is really shocking that if there is this tiny bit of cruelty, what people can feel, like this part where one person has to kill, other people eat without feeling that, but this person has this personal connection. Now, when this will be robotized, then even this connection is out. And then it seems that it's even easier to ignore the problem as a whole. So I invite everyone to listen to it. And thank you, Tomaž, again, and see you next time.
Thank you very much for having me. You are doing a wonderful job. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.